I thought that last question was so great. I was so happy to hear everybody talking about the obligation of the land-grant university. I think there's no question that many of us in land-grant universities feel that it is not an option, it is a responsibility, it is an obligation for us to be serving all the people of our state, and certainly the original people are a very, very important constituency. And so I hope that this collaboration that we have, this conference that we have, is representative of our commitment, which is going to move into the future to be responsible and continue on with this work and putting resources into it, and as well as our own work. So it is great pleasure for me to introduce my boss, Dean Brian Buhr, who is the Dean of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences at the University of Minnesota. He's been a tremendous supporter of the Healthy Food, Healthy Lives Institute, which has allowed me and my colleagues to work hard on this conference and help make it happen. And of course, our college is a core part of the land-grant mission of the university. This is really where, in my opinion, it's where it sits and where it lives. And so first, Dean Buhr is going to give some comments, and he will be followed by Lori Watso, who you've all heard a number of times speak, and she will give the closing comments of the conference.
Thank you, Mindy. For those of you who know Mindy, no one is the boss of Mindy Kurzer. I can assure you of that. She's creative and generous with her time, and as you saw at this conference, she's done a wonderful job of organizing this and supporting the Season of Native Health and the First Native Health Conference. So thank you so much, Mindy. I'm going to go off. I have remarks here, but I think I'm going to go off remarks a little bit, and that's a theme I guess I've picked up on. And I have to say, I did miss a couple of hours of the session the last couple of days. This morning I had to go away and take some time to do some things. But I'm new to this journey, right? So as I look at what's happening here, and as you've talked to the panel that was just up here before, and the entire conference has been quite an experience to begin to learn from you what some of the challenges are that we face with regard to Native health, with regard to our engagement with the Native American communities. President Kaler, when he started and spoke the first morning of the conference, he said that we haven't always done that well. And so we know certainly that we can do that better. As I see, as you've been talking about the activities that have gone on in the communities, your work and powerful work within the communities to address the nutrition issues, to address community-based learning and engagement and innovation. I have to say, one of the things I miss as a dean so much, and as I was watching the young people up here presenting, is that engagement with students. And to see those students talking about the young man from Oklahoma, I don't see him, I don't know where he came from here, but he was with Choctaw, and he was talking about the work he was doing and how he takes that on the community. That's always that place where I don't see that enough anymore. So it was really inspirational to see those young students coming to universities, learning about the science from their traditional perspective and their viewpoints, and taking that back out of the community is really amazing. And it created, I thought that listening to them was that moment of understanding a little bit, I think. I mean, I won't claim to have any great, deep understanding yet after a day and a half, but a little bit of some of the challenges and I think opportunities in this to work going forward. And so it really was a phenomenal experience. I will tell you, as background, this is about as emotional as I get. I'm an Iowa German Lutheran farmer, and as my grandmother, I was listening to your traditions, and it was interesting. And it's nothing in comparison, but the things you learn in listening with people and some of those commonalities. I was thinking, you made me think about my grandmother. And when I was a kid, I don't know why this is, and it's that thing you've been talking about all week about the connection of food to people and lives and community. And I hadn't thought about this in years, actually, but one of my earliest memories was, and we were all German, as far as I know, I guess my one grandmother was Irish, but we're not sure we claim her. No, I'm kidding. She was wonderful. She was actually the most. She had the most charisma of anyone in the whole family, so we have to give her credit for that. But we would get together in the fall every year, and several of our extended families, and we would had livestock. So we'd take typically a beef cow and process that. We'd all get together, and they would make wurst. So there'd be knockwurst, wunderwurst, bloodwurst, and my grandmother passed away. I don't know, it was probably about 10 years ago now, and it was only shortly after that I realized we had lost. My grandfather had passed away quite a long time before that. His two brothers had passed away before that, and my grandmother, I think, as far as I know, had the recipes for all of those wursts. And of course, now if you've been to restaurants, and we're talking a lot about protein, and Germans love protein too, of course, thinking about that we had lost those, that I didn't know where they were, that a year or two after she passed away. And as far as I know, they're gone. I think somebody had cleaned out from her house, and we lost those. And so that's a piece that I think about my kids, and they've disconnected from something that simple, right? And so as I was listening to you talk about the connections that have happened and what's happened across your tribal communities, the nations, those losses are much broader than I could ever imagine. But it's that piece, I think, a little bit of, and we're just about the land grants role, is that commonality and connection that at some level we all face, because at some level we're all engaged in some of these same processes of, the conversation about trauma and so on. Again, a place that I can't possibly imagine or fathom for many people in the world and country and Native Americans, but certainly a piece of we do have an obligation to engage in all communities and move these things forward. And this conference, I hope, is an example and a start of that. And I feel like it's really helped, certainly to gain some understanding. And none of those remarks are on my paper here, so I don't know where to start on the piece of paper. But I do want to talk a little bit about the role of the land grant and where I think there's an opportunity. And actually, it's kind of interesting in this conversation. There were four areas that I certainly picked up on. And this connection between science and native and traditional understanding and knowledge is really a key piece, and that came through as an interesting aspect of this program. And one of the things, it was about a year ago now, I think Carl Lorenz is in the back. I think I visited White Earth, and Chairwoman Visner was there at the time, and we were just having a conversation, and she was talking about their forests, and they were reclaiming and reestablishing some of the native forests. And she was talking about how they really weren't doing much with the understory of all the native plants and species and berries and so on that were in the forest with that. And we were having a conversation about how the university wasn't connecting. And I realized, here we are, two basically administrators in a way, talking about a real challenge and opportunity, and started to talk about, well, how about we get some people together to work on this, right? I mean, rather than talking about it and seeing, what we might do, having that conversation. And that's led to this connection between science and traditional knowledge again, as we're in the process, and Carl Lorenz is leading on that. He's our director of diversity and inclusion, and it really came out of that conversation was this notion of, can we hire and actually look for a position that we will have defined by Native communities that will work in traditional ecological knowledge in natural resource science management. And so that we could bridge that, as we were talking about, that knowledge that exists, bring that into our conversations, engage with our faculty and faculty ideally at tribal colleges. And so we're making an investment to try to move that ahead and working on that this fall. And we hope that it's really an opportunity to engage certainly in the natural resources side of this. Of course, it may become a model as we're thinking about it for other things. So those kinds of opportunities to really connect and do those, which we saw here today. A lot of the social policy and social awareness things. Through Extension is here, I'm sure, today. I've seen quite a few people here, quite a few working within the tribal colleges and others on nutrition programs and so on. Again, connecting in and really the ways of knowing about how nutrition affects Native communities and understanding from Native communities what opportunities are to work and engage. Beyond that, there's certainly, as I said, I'm learning. I think we're learning. We recognize the histories and the challenges that we have. And I think this partnership with the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux that, Lori, you talked about being a long-term partnership is just in the early stages, sort of the seed stage of how we move forward. And so I'm excited about the prospects of moving forward with that. So I'm just going to close by, of course, saying thank you to everyone who's been a part of this. It's been a tremendous experience, I think, for everyone. You can tell from the panel up here. It certainly was a tremendous experience for me. I'll take away quite a lot from this as I think about how we move forward within the college. One of the things you'll be interested in, it happened just this last week, we were talking to the department heads about, which I was kind of amazed resonated as well with this conference, about how we, what is our mission as CFANs? What do we do? And it's early. I don't think we've really adopted it. But it was CFANs, inspiring minds, which I think a lot of people said here, nourishing people, and stewarding the environment is sort of our test. We actually use nurturing the environment. We're trying to figure out stewardship or nurturing works better. So if you have any thoughts on that, let us know. But that's exactly what we do. We work across that spectrum. And so much of the conference was about that link between soils, earth, water, and what's happening with native foods, with foods, globally and internationally. The conversation about international indigenous people, I thought, was quite remarkable to think about the scope and scale and differences across that global perspective. So I do want to thank certainly the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux for being a sponsor of this. Healthy Foods, Healthy Lives, I mentioned already, and Mindy's hard work, and the entire planning team. If I went through that, you'd be here another 20 minutes. You all do look exhausted. And then, certainly I want to recognize Goff Public. Actually, they're sort of quietly behind the scenes. I know Chris was running around here all the time, and I know they've sort of, for us, been a great connection point. And I will again say that this has been, I hope, a first step in a very long journey about this. And I can't resist, because I love, I'm gonna, Faith spotted eagle. I'm gonna close where she closed. I opened my bucking ears, and I'm starting to open my bucking eyes. And I had to say that very carefully because I wasn't sure that I would get that right. But it was exactly, I think that's one of the first stages I think it was called. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll look forward to working and seeing everyone again here soon. So thank you, Lori.
Okay, well, you're the diehards. You are here to the very end. The very end. So thank you. And I know many people that had to leave. We have to juggle flights and schedules and all of that. So I'm sure many, many more people would love to be here with you. But I thank you for hanging out with us. So we've come to the end of the first annual conference on Native American nutrition, and I think it was a success. And you're all a part of that success. You helped it to make a great success. So I, too, want to take time to say thank you and extend our deepest appreciation to lots of people here. I just have to go through the list because it's so important to acknowledge everybody. So again, members of the organizing committee, and they are listed in your brochure, in your pamphlet, to see everybody's name. And I know Mindy had people stand up earlier for that, so thank you. We had many, many volunteers help us throughout the conference. Thank you very much to them. All of our great speakers and panelists were just so flippin' amazing that I can't say enough or thank them enough. I also want to thank the Business Council, the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community. Their continued support of Seeds of Native Health made this conference possible and all the work that we do in that initiative. I want to put out a great thank you and a shout out to the Mystic Lake Casino staff. They are wonderful. They always work very hard to meet our needs, and we appreciate them so much. We had community members here who were a part of the conference and volunteering, so I want to acknowledge Joanna Bryant, Melinda Stady-Agundis, and Andy Vig, who was with us last night. And also we had some of our community team members that were very involved here. Certainly wellness chef Jason Champagne, our dietitian, diabetic nurse Terry Wrights, and Sienna Sipes helped also, so thank you to them. Big shout out and thank you to our sponsors, and they are listed in your booklet also, and I think we also had them kind of scrolling on the screens every now and again. But I especially want to thank, so all of the sponsors, but I especially want to call out our bronze sponsor, the Center for Prevention at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. A special thank you to the University of Minnesota, including President Kaler, who helped us open the conference, and Dean Buhr, who was with us through most of the conference and helped us close here. Thank you so much for being here. Big thank you to Mindy Kurzer and your colleagues, Chris Igo and Jawad Towns, who are with the university's Healthy Food, Healthy Lives Institute. This was amazing. You did amazing, amazing work. Thank you so much. And finally, I have to say a special thank you and special love to Goff Public. They are an amazing, amazing group of people. This, I have to be honest, they were an inspiration for Seeds of Native Health and for this conference, and it would not have happened without them. Thank you. So, very briefly, over the last couple days, you know, we've heard from a lot of people. We've learned a lot of things. And I think, again, I'm just going to do a couple takeaways that I have. And I think that our speakers have reinforced our need to take charge of our nutritional destiny. And our breakout sessions allowed us to explore in depth the challenges and opportunities that face our communities. And I believe that we've been strengthened in our resolve to engage allies, both Native and non-Native partners, as we work together to improve the nutritional health of our people and our communities. All of the speakers have built upon each other and created and added to this momentum that we were talking about in the last panel. And I'm excited to say the momentum is not going to end when you leave here. You think you're going to get away, but you're not. So first, over the next couple of weeks, we will post many of the conference presentations on our YouTube channel and on the Seeds of Native Health website so that people who weren't able to be here can see them, so that you can get refreshers and hear the people again. Also, we're planning to create a summary report available within the next couple months, and I feel very confident it's going to be a stellar report. The reports that have come out of Seeds of Native Health and the Fertile Ground gatherings have been amazing, and I'm sure that this one will be too. It'll be a good resource for you and, again, for those who could not attend. I know that there's been a lot of networking going on in the last couple days, reconnecting with folks that you knew before, making new connections, and I really encourage you to stay connected. Stay connected and also share what you've learned at this conference with your colleagues. Help us spread the word and engage others in this very, very important work in Native country. Now, as for a second annual conference, in our original plans with the University of Minnesota, we wanted to launch this as an annual series, not just a one-time event. And so I am very delighted to share that as a result of the overwhelming interest and the support of our Business Council, we intend to have a second annual conference in the fall of 2017. And we're going to try and be very careful about dates of planning because a lot happens in the late summer, early fall, you know? And already, I don't know if they're still here. I was talking to a couple of women from the University of Wyoming the other night at the opening kind of reception thing. And they want to host 2020. So I think we're going to be together for a while. I hope so. And in relationship to that, the conference, the second conference, I know that Professor Kurzer and all of us at the SMSC and Seeds of Native Health are eager to hear your ideas and help us prepare for that next conference. So we will email you a survey later this week. Please fill it out. We want to learn what you thought was effective here, what should be changed, and who you want to hear from next year. It's very, very important, and we take all of that into consideration seriously. The Shakopee Mdewakanton also have other new initiatives in the works for Seeds of Native Health. So check the website periodically. Stay tuned for announcements, press releases in the near future. So now, if you'd let me, I'd like to help us set our intention as we prepare to leave today. and I want to ask you to stay strong. Stay strong in your work. Make yourself seen. Toot your own horn when you need to, when you can. And ultimately, when we're successful in this work, we impact those around us. Please reach out. Reach out to those people who impact our work and we impact their work. Those protectors of the water, of the land, of the air, and our treaties. We all need to work together, and when we do that, we will be successful, and we will lift everybody up. So with that, this annual conference concludes, and I ask you to be safe and be well and travel safely. Thank you.